Hey everybody, video here for you today. Now we're going to talk about a site that was once part of the kingdom we call Egypt today. It is located in present-day Sudan. During the 18th dynasty, about 3,500 years ago, the kingdom we call Egypt today spread all the way from the Sudan area, the land of Kush, all the way up into the Lebanon region and to Baalbek. Yeah, about 3,500 years ago, Baalbek was pretty much under the control of the Egyptians. But today we are going to go down to Jebel Barkal. This is located right down in this region, quite a ways south of anything we really talk about. But here's the sacred mountain of Jebel Barkal, and this is where they thought that the god Amun, this was his mountain, this is where he dwelt. Very important, and you notice right down here, there are temples dedicated to him, and in the background here, there are some smaller pyramids. We'll look at those. But let's take a look around here on Google Earth. Now here we are down on Google Earth. This is the entrance to a temple. There was quite a few temples built down here. Thutmoses III, coming from the 18th dynasty, built a large one. And here is the reason why this mountain was thought to be sacred. This pinnacle, and it's kind of unique in ancient Egypt, or what was ancient Egypt, but they thought this represented a few different things through history, and this mountain became legendary. Jebel Barkal, in Arabic, I guess actually means holy mountain, and we'll talk about this feature here in a bit. But I read on one website that in very ancient times, these features, these large 4 features here on the front, were actually carved into gods or rulers in a very distant point in time. And I think that is legend, or is it? Here is a look from the top of the mountain here. Here is the ruined temple, and this was the dwelling place of the god Amun, the Lord of 2 lands, and this was his special place of dwelling, you could say, in Upper Egypt, which is southern Egypt, or it was way back when Egypt stretched this far south. During the 18th dynasty, when Thutmoses III built his temple here, and I think later Amenhotep III built a temple down here. But during the 18th dynasty, the borders of Egypt were expanding to their greatest size ever. Here are some of those smaller Nubian pyramids. We'll take a look at those here in a sec. But you notice this large row of rocks up here, large stones. And then it points out to the sunset here. Well, I took a look on Google Earth Pro when the sun would be setting in alignment with these rocks. And you can do this yourself. It's December 21st, around the winter solstice. I just thought that was interesting. And if you back out here, this is the area where those stones come out. Is that a coincidence? Well, it might be, but certainly pointing to something significant there. Here we are on the north edge at the top of the mountain. Great view of the sun going down up here. And if we swing around this way, this will give you an idea how far away from the Nile it was. Not very far at all. But I guess in ancient times, this was on a north-south trade route, a trail that went through the desert. And this was a main stopping off point for people coming up from the Nile from the south, bringing goods up to the temple of Amun, up at Luxor. Here, good view of the setting sun. Now, let's talk about this pinnacle. There's been a few different stories written about it, but I guess there was hieroglyphs found up here, not very ancient ones. And there was a theory that this was a cobra, and gold was inserted into the eyes at one point in time. Now, people have said this could have been a pharaoh sitting on his throne, but the cobra, the Uraeus symbol, that makes the most sense to me. Now, here is a website I will leave below, and they kind of superimpose an image here on the left of how they think the Egyptians saw this natural feature. And also they state here that this pinnacle was worked on. There was eyes put in, and a gold-silver alloy of some sort was placed in the eyes. And there was hieroglyphs found up here. It says the striking rock needle may have been considered a phallic symbol of Amun's regenerative power. Seen from the east, the rock needle resembles the royal Egyptian uraeus on the white crown, and the crown symbolized where the pharaohs ruled. Now here is a chapel at Jebel Barkal. And this is the holy mountain. I guess Amun is sitting inside the holy mountain, and here you see the Cobra coming out of it with the sun disk up here. Pretty important. Now here are a couple pillars at the temple to Mut at the site here. Who is Mut, the wife of Amun? So this is very important. Here's Hathor depicted on these two columns. And this was built in the 25th dynasty by Takara, Pharaoh, when Egypt was ruled by the pharaohs of the land of Cush. But that is all that remains as far as anything large from this temple here at the site. Here is Takara as a lion, as most pharaohs did. This symbolizes power. But people say, well, these are sphinxes. Sphinxes are females with wings, and it has nothing to do with the gateway of Giza, these lion forms of these pharaohs. They have to do with power, nothing to do with the necropolis of Giza and the shrine located there. You notice he has the cobra symbol up on his crown. That is no coincidence. Let's take a look at a pyramid coming from the 25th dynasty and what they were doing. Here's Takara's pyramid at nearby Nuri. Very small, mud bricks, 25th dynasty. Here is a ruler making an offering to the holy mountain, the god Amun, and to also Mut, his wife, who has a temple out front. Now here is one of the websites I will leave below, and he refers to ancient Egypt as Kemet, and I have no problem with that. The earliest sacred archaeological remains at the site date to the reign of Thutmoses III, who reigned from 1479 to 1425 BCE, according to those who make guesses at that sort of thing. This king laid the foundations for the temple to Amun, which was later completed by Ramses II. Temples were positioned in front of the sacred mountain. Today, only scant remains can be found. The photo below shows the walkway flagged on either side with statues of the god Amun in the form of a ram. The sandstone bricks on either side once formed part of the pylon gateway. And why would Amun be in the form of a ram? Well, where are rams seen? They are seen up in the mountains. But over time, the gods are depicted in many different forms coming from Egypt. Over 3,000 years, things change. The god Amun and the throne of two countries, Upper and Lower Egypt, and Egypt is divided in certain periods. But this is very interesting from Thutmoses III, coming from about 3,500 years ago. Why does he inscribe this text in here? O people of the southern land, who are in the pure mountain called thrones of two lands, among men it was unknown. Thus you may know the miracle of Amun-Ra in the presence of the two lands, the like of which had never been. The guards were in the process of coming in order to meet in the night to carry out the regular watch. They were watching the skies, it sounds like. There were no sky watchers. A star came approaching to the south of them. The like had never occurred before. It shot straight at them, and no one among them could stand. It slew as if they had never existed, they being prostrate in their blood and falling down prone. Now the Uraeus was behind them, with fire in their faces. No single man among them could retaliate. No one looked around. They had no more teams of horses, those having bolted in terror to the mountain. Such is the miracle that Amun did for me, his beloved son, in order to cause the inhabitants of the foreign lands to see the power of my majesty. I find that text very interesting. A star came approaching to the south of them, like had never occurred before. Sounds like it was pretty destructive. They talk about sky watchers. What are they referring to? Is this something that happened in relative recent time, or is this a legend coming from prehistory, something really bad that happened a long time ago? I wonder. That story certainly reminds me of this video I did last April, Egypt's impact catastrophe found, and go over an impact crater that was dated to just after the end of the Old Kingdom. That was the window I was in, and I went over Orion and a few things here. Now, let's talk about these small pyramids off here to the west. Here's the Holy Mountain from the west, and it's no coincidence that these structures are out on the west side. Probably some stuff below these mounds here, but here are the pyramids. These are a little bit different than these right here, but these come from about 2,500 years ago to 2,100 years ago. The Kushite rulers built these. Here's the mountain, and then just over here we have these Nubian pyramids. They are very small compared to pyramids that we are familiar with in Egypt, but they definitely served a purpose out here on the west side of the mountain, land of the dead. Here you see the mountain, and it looks like the ancient Nile would have came pretty close to here. But you notice here there are just numerous temples and stuff dedicated to the god Amun down here, coming from at least 3,500 years ago and then going up to about 2,000 years ago. So we know there was at least 1,500 years of dedication to this mountain here. The god Amun, that is so important. And because it's so important, how far back in history does this stretch? And was there massive, huge carvings on the side of this mountain at one point in time? I don't dismiss that. That is my video on Jebel Barkal, a very important small mountain here. The god Amun was honored here, and that is very important. Centuries and centuries of dedication to this god here. A very interesting place with probably a deeper history than we know, but quite a ways south of places that we are familiar with in Egypt. Hope you thought that was interesting, and you all have a very nice day.